Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Go Go Loser Ranger Season 1, Episode 3. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So the opening of this episode kind of gets rid of the theory I had, because I was like, could the monsters, like the Dusters, could their like bosses have not actually died, but they're pretending to be the Rangers, the Dragon Keepers? But it's like, no, what we saw is it seems like their bosses got murked in front of them, because the Red Ranger's like, oh, let's join together. Like, the fact is, got blood on his face, looking super psychotic and stepping in a pool of blood. So it's like, no, their bosses got blipped in front of them, so it seems like highly unlikely. So that kind of removes a theory I had previously wondered if that was the case. But either way, we're picking up where the last episode ended off with Fighter F's death, and he's dead. Oh, he's dead. Not unless we find out something later on, but it seems pretty certain now. It seems like the divine artifacts can fully kill them. And I was so curious about that, because I was like, wait, so why didn't the canon during the, like, because they kind of did the Ranger thing of like, oh, like, we have this bit canon, which I forgot which one. I mean, plenty of Rangers probably have done it, but I know there have been Power Ranger series where, like, they combine their weapons into a larger cannon type of thing. But I'm like, that didn't kill them, but why did his blade kill F? It's like, because it's a real divine artifact. The one they use during the Sunday shows are fakes. I don't know if they just use the same one over and over again, or whether they use different ones, but the ones in the Sunday show are fake, because they gotta have these guys coming back, can't have them actually killed. Them rogue and stuff like that, sure, will kill them, no problem. I don't even know if people even recognize, like, right, that they are the same monsters coming back over and over again. They're probably thinking, like, oh, it's different ones every time. To be fair, it kind of is, because we know that we're learning in episode 1, they are on a schedule. They have a rotation of, oh, who's working today, who's working this Sunday, who's not. So it does, like, it probably other people don't recognize some of the monsters they are seeing over and over again are the same ones, because, like, they all look the same. You can't really differentiate between them. So, like, of course, that's not going to be something that's probably going to register to the general public. But either way, what really surprised me is, turns out Suzukiri isn't the only one who knows about Fighter D. So does Sakurama, but that's only because he overheard Suzukiri and Fighter D's conversation last episode. Now, he's talking about, like, okay, like, you should give up. And he's like, I'm not going to give up. You guys have been, like, keeping up this, like, facade for 12 years. Like, and I'm going to break it. And so for Sakurama, it's like, you pass. I'm like, what? That's what I was like, we don't know who's a monster in disguise, because, like I said, I don't think they can really differentiate between each other. So I'm like, is he one? Like, what's going on? Because, once again, we still don't even know Suzukiri's thing. So I'm like, is she actually a monster too? I don't think so. She just has her own personal vendetta against the Rangers as an organization. Maybe it is specifically tied to the Dragon Keepers. Either way, Sakurama's point of view is kind of like, hey, I want to create a world, do what you can, become a ranger, and then you can, like, change the system from the inside. So it's like, interesting. If this had to be a boys parallel, he's kind of trying to be a little bit of a Starlight, but he also wants Fighter D to also be Starlight, which is so interesting. I was like, okay. And he's like, hey, let's change the organization so monsters and humans can coexist. But, like, Fighter D's like, yeah, like, I'm not down with that. I don't want to do it. And even as he's fading away, to like teleport away, I just love the whole, dust away, where he's like, you don't have what it takes to be a ranger, or something like that. So I'm like, that's interesting. I don't even know if he told Suzukiri, at least on screen he never told her about Sakurama. So I'm like, that's kind of a loose thread in this episode. But yeah, he goes to meet her, which she's so, like, once again, like, cold with, like, the fact that she's just, like, slicing off his head in public. And it's like, oh, like, what would people think if they knew there was a monster hiding amongst them? And she was kind of saying, like, I kind of have leverage over you, because it's like, I could basically turn the entire world and put a spotlight on you if the entire world found out you were hiding amongst us. So, hey, let's work together. And so our ultimate plan is to take the divine artifacts from the Dragon Keepers. Because she's saying, like, the organization as a whole, the Rangers as a whole, is on rocky foundation. As you kind of see, it's like, it's basically a Jenga tower. Poke the right piece, the whole thing comes crumbling down, because the organization isn't as powerful as it seems, because they put that 5 at the top. The Dragon Keepers are the only thing that they're the ones who carry most of the weight of the organization. You take that out, the rest of the organization goes. So she wants Fighter D to sneak in to find the Red Ranger's dragon artifact, the one he used last episode, the sword. And so, what is really interesting though, like Fighter D gave us a little more context for the way they like copy things. He's like, it's not, obviously it takes a lot of concentration, something he's not used to. Like, he takes a lot of concentration to transform into someone he's not used to transforming into. But also, he says, like, I am better at, like, copying, like Earthlings than anyone else. So that's why it comes a little easier to him. Because she's like, why haven't you guys ever used this to, like, spy on us? Like, why have you never really infiltrated? It's like, because transforming into things is easier for some than others. Like, even in episode 1, the one that transformed into the tiger thing, it was like, it was, as you could tell, that thing looked off. And it's like, I guess that's why, because not all of them are perfect or good at it. So, but it does seem like, for the most part, Fighter D was really, really good at, like, disguising himself as a human, so. And just her bothering him, he's like, shut up, I need to concentrate, you know? And so he sneaks in following her direction and ends up running into Home Dude from last episode, who immediately recognized Fighter D as not the real Red Dragon Keeper, just because of his smell, which I'm like, what does that mean in a grand scheme of things? Like, is he just like, is he a weirdo that just has a really good sense of smell, or what it was? I guess maybe because we know he has plans to become the next Red, so it could be a thing of, I'm so obsessed with you that, like, I know your smell. Maybe him and Red are that close, I have no idea. But it is interesting too, where like, hey, because Fighter D was questioning him, like, once he got into the door. I also appreciate the fact is, it's like, yeah, that shapeshifting ability is great. Just like, yeah, transform my finger, just like unlock the door. But yeah, that sword, the divine artifact, something that's so powerful, is just casually thrown in there, and it's just like, he's like, wait, this is a trap, right? It's like, you would think it would be, but like, Red did show up later, so you're like, I don't know if it was a trap, because like, why would you immediately think that the monsters would come after your divine artifacts? You wouldn't. Because that was Suzukiri's point. Like, yeah, they underestimate you. So, like, that's going to be their biggest flaw. They've been catching these W's for the past 13 years with this whole facade. It's made them complacent and thinking, like, right, none of you are a threat. We can beat you easily just for the show, but also we had the means of killing you. Because I brought up previously, like, I was, like, in a previous review, I was like, I'm curious. It seems like obviously their bosses didn't have the same immortality. Like, the Dusters are their own circumstance. But it's like, because it's kind of a moot point, considering like the divine artifacts were used to kill the bosses. So even if they had some regenerative ability, they were dead regardless, because it ignores those powers. I should also point out too, I had so many questions about like how this whole thing works. It's like, was it some superpower you got? Is it technology based? It seems like it's technology based. The divine artifacts, well, I can't say for sure, because all she said was they were made. So I'm like, were they made in recent years? Like, were they something that was made years and years ago? Like, around the time the alien invasion happened, like, humans made the divine artifacts? Because if they did, like, why are there only 5? So that's why I'm like, are they, like, maybe old technology that was, like archaeologists dug up or something like that? Because like the sword in particular looks like a bone sword, like it was made from a creature. So I'm like, there's so much there where I'm like, we don't know what that's all about. Because at one point I was also wondering, like, are those divine artifacts based on the monsters technology? But it's like, no, the way she said it made it seem like, no, they were made. She would know better than anyone, being, once again, she's from R&D. So I'm so curious about like what that was. I mean, not like, but once again, they've obviously got tech enough to like, because their suits are called upon by the divine artifacts. That's how they also transform. But it's also interesting to know they can transform and not have to take the divine artifacts with him. He left it behind because he's like, I don't need it. I can transform and then just bounce. I mean, it makes sense. Once again, it plays into that ego of, I don't need to actually bring my big old weapon to the fight because it's all for show. But like I said, Home Dude ended up figuring out Fighter D and attacked him. And just like how sadistic he was about shooting him over and over again, he's coming from a place of like, oh yeah, I'm doing good. I'm getting rid of you monsters. You monsters are evil. I'm justice. But it's like, once again, how many people in the organization know how much of this is BS? How many know and just don't care? You know, does he know? Does he believe? Like, he's a little bit of a sociopath, kind of getting enjoyment out of killing him over and over again. He's like, yeah, your regenerative ability is like, ugh, it's creepy to me. Kept blasting Fighter D's head over and over again, but Fighter D was like, okay, bet, I got this dynamite. He's like, whoa, come on, slow down, bro. Because it's interesting, too, because he also brought up, technically anyone can use the divine artifacts, it's just no one ever does outside of the Dragon Keepers. So even Home Dude was like, I don't even know what will happen. Like, maybe I'll be able to use it. No one's ever really tried it. I think theoretically anyone can use it, which I was almost wondering, could Fighter D do it? But he doesn't know enough about them to be able to utilize it. I don't think anyone knows. Probably only the Dragon Keepers have enough info on how, like, those work and, like, the origins of them and stuff. But either way, Fighter D's threatening to blow the place up with dynamite, and then proceeds to take a golf club and bash Home Dude's head in. He does it a second time. I'm like, did you actually kill him? Or, like, did you go full Negan in that moment or not? I just don't know. Like, he got 2 good whacks on him, so I don't know if the Home Dude's dead or not. But Fighter D got away with the sword. I'm like, there's no way it's going to be this easy. And it's not, because, once again, Red is there, and it's a one-sided fight. It's like nothing he can do will work against him. And he's also, like, not putting in a lot of effort, because he's like, no. Like, we can't waste this opportunity. Like, fact is, cameras aren't here. Oh, lo and behold, the cameras are here. Then he starts playing up like, oh, I'm so weak. Oh, luckily, my team, the other Dragon Keepers are here to back me up. And so now it becomes this conversation of, all right, like, are we going to, like, fall into a routine? Because we keep, like, doing this over and over again. It's going to kind of be boring. I mean, obviously, the world's been captivated for 13 years, but it's like, oh, we got to switch things up. So it was initially a thing of, hey, why don't we capture one of you? Like, Fighter D, let's capture you. But he's like, no, I don't want to do that. So, I mean, I'm also skipping the most important part. This is going to be kind of an interesting reference. There's a series called Koriwa Zombie Des, or, like, the translate title is This a Zombie? Oh, right, the Fighter D, like, when his arm got sliced off but it didn't immediately come back, he was using it to, like, leverage on, like, this giant steel ball. At first I was like, is that part of a water tower or something? But he grabbed it and he used the momentum of him regenerating his arm to kind of give him pseudo superhuman strength. Because it's like, we don't know what their base level power is. Like, you know, other than a regeneration, like, do they have any form of superhuman strength? But it's like, the reason why I was making that reference, because the main protagonist of Is This a Zombie, Ayumu, it's been a hot minute since I've seen the series, because it's originally a light novel. Then it got, like, adapted into a manga and anime. But either way, because he's a zombie, he can push his body beyond its limits. So it's like, oh, whereas a human can give like 100% potentially, he can go up to 300%. It breaks his body, but because he's a zombie, he immediately recovers. So it kind of feels similar to that, where it's like, all right, like, I can use my regeneration to kind of push it, because he, even to the point, like, his hand was squeezing into the metal, and he, like, tossed it. But Red sent it back, because he's like, oh yeah, it reminds me of my days on a baseball club. Then Fighter D's got his arm and his head cut off, and he's reaching for both his arm and the sword, and then when he comes back up, he's just got the sword. I was like, man, did you really just lose your arm? I was like, can someone pick that up or what? I mean, obviously you can call it. I should have figured something was up, because it's like, well, he'd be able to call it back, right? We saw, like, right, but I guess it's like, I mean, that begs the question, like, could you lose an arm and just never get it back? But it's also playing into the fact is the Dragon Keepers underestimate them so much, they never bothered to learn what they're fully capable of. Because, like, who cares? You're trash mobs. Even like 100 years, none of you could ever do anything to us, actually. So, but yeah, like, Fighter D is, you know, talking trash, saying he's going to take them down, and ultimately Blue ends up using his divine artifact, and, like, I'm trying to think of what that reminds me of. There's, like, some video game I'm thinking of in the top of my head that kind of reminds me of that, where it's like you inflate someone and then you, like, snap and explode them. Like, obviously it's a technique. I'm sure, like, other characters have had, like, variations of it, but I feel like there's something specific I'm thinking of like that, where it's just like you snap your fingers and then, like, there's an explosion. It has to be something Trail/Kaseki related. I'm sure there's someone with a ability, I'm thinking like an S-craft that's similar to that, not in that capacity, but like just snapping your fingers on an explosion is always kind of like a dope thing. But he inflated him and then exploded him, but then Fighter, because I was like, well, I mean, we know the divine artifacts can kill them. So I'm like, oh man, I was like, wow, Fighter D's dead. So I'm like, so we don't stick with one character. I mean, I guess that's also to play into the Dusters just being their own, like, yeah, like, because they all look the same. They're just going to infiltrate and do their own thing. So you're like, interesting. So who is Suzukiri going to work with now? Because she's like, oh, Fighter D's dead. But I'm like, is he actually dead? Is this show just going to bounce from protagonist to protagonist? I was like, that's actually sad if that's like, once again, we don't know for sure. Like, I mean, it seems like, hey, Fighter F is dead, and same thing for D, but not unless we find out, like, maybe the divine artifacts don't kill like we think, or maybe D just happened to not, who knows, right? Like, maybe Blue faked that. I doubt it, because he was super quiet this entire, like, ordeal. The only one that was talking was, like, the other four. It's also interesting, too, because I don't know if he felt comfortable because no one else was around, but I guess, because we know that obviously everyone else knows who Red is in his secret identity, but I don't know if once again, I don't know how much of the general public knows there. But like, because after the fight, he was just casually like removes his suit and just walks towards his divine artifact. I'm like, does the world not know? Does the world, like, did the camera crew already bounce after the fight was done? Because for them, it's like, oh, like a rogue got away and, yeah, the spectacle, yada, yada, yada. But I was like, oh, is it really going to end like this? And the twist where I love the reveal was like, nah, Fighter D pulled a fast one on you. That wasn't your divine artifact. It was his arm the entire time. That's why I was saying, like, we saw that they can, like, easily get the arm back. So why wouldn't he automatically reattach his arm? But maybe that's like, that was a slip on his part. Once again, he was so cocky, he didn't notice something like that. Because I was like, that's interesting. Like, in retrospect, it's like, yeah, obviously, like, would you just lose your arm? You'd be able to, like, we saw what you did when you threw that, like, piece of metal. Like, you can, like, still connect to your arm, so he could have grabbed both. So it's like, yeah, but Red was underestimating and was so cocky. Like, I got this. He missed an important detail like that. So, yeah, the divine artifact, Suzukiri's got it, which she's also, like, kind of, she's, like, in her half-hearted way being like, oh, kind of bummer that he died. But it's like, hey, you gave me a chance. So 1 down, 4 to go. Because also Fighter D's like, right, someone else is going to pick up this mantle. And it's like, who will? So it's going to be interesting to see. Also, what's going to happen now that one of the divine artifacts is gone. I could see Red getting super pissed and taking it out on some of the monsters. And that pushes one of them to step up. How is Sakurama going to feel knowing that D is gone? Like, I'd assume, like, I guess him and Suzukiri will work together potentially, or they'll talk it out next episode maybe. I'm getting to this late, so, like, episode 4 already came out yesterday at the time you're recording this, so I'm interested in jumping into that immediately. But we also had that ending, because I had to be careful about the end credits, because there was an extra scene at the end that wasn't, like, a promo thing. I don't think they're doing promo. They had the little, like, things they have at the very end that kind of act as a little promos. Like, I don't think I have to worry about, like, oh, what happens on the next episode type of thing. But there was, like, some rangers getting attacked by a monster at the end. So you're like, is that another fighter fighter who's been here the entire time? Because, like I've talked about previously, they have referenced there being others who ran away. So it's like, where have they been the entire time? It is that thing of maybe seeing 2 occasions, not just one, twice. You've seen Fighter F and you've seen Fighter D go against the Rangers on their own. Maybe those who've been laying low have decided to make their move. Or maybe they've just been waiting for the perfect opportunity, and 2 fighters standing on their own just was enough inspiration to not sit back. Or maybe it did inspire some of the other fighters. Like, are the other Dusters even aware of what's going down with F and D? So we'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.